I have orders to kill anyone that crosses the quarantine line. Now move!
On this episode of Old Joe's Reminiscence, with a deadly disease spreading, the astronauts race to find a cure before Urko's gorillas can burn down an entire village. Episode 12 of the struggling Planet of the Apes series aired over most of the CBS television stations on Friday, November 29th, 1974. I don't know why they delayed showing the sixth episode produced at the Fox Ranch in September. Was it a bad script being held back? Post-production problems? Copyright negotiations? Controversial subject matter of some kind? Who knows? I guess we're about to find out during this review. It's a large cast with numerous characters. Some of the returning actors are Mark Leonard as Urko, Booth Coleman as Zaius, Biff Elliott is back for his second episode, and regulars Ron Stein and Eldon Burke are also on hand with a few small roles. I downloaded the final script dated May 23rd, 1974, and I'm going to use that in my research. I could tell it was an early script because Burke's character was still being listed as Stan Kovac. Urko is still Ursus as well. This may have been the last script to use those character names before everybody got the memo and was on board. That's about as deep as I like to probe into them before I actually view the episodes. You know, spoilers. So, if you don't like spoilers, take a look at the episode before I go any further. Then, let's relax and treat ourselves to another dose of the Planet of the Apes. We open with a view of the majestic hills overlooking the Fox Ranch in Malibu Creek State Park. Fox spared no expense in hiring extras for this one, it seems. Those humans who are toiling in the field are being watched over by a gorilla on horseback. A man carrying a load of wood starts to stagger. He doesn't look at all well. He drops what he's carrying and he falls into a nearby stream. Seeing this, the sentry ape gallops off. That man is left, twitching and convulsing. Now that part was unscripted. We now join the script in the middle of page 2. A man named Talbot asks Burke and Galen to stay. Talbot is played by George Wallace.
George Dewey Wallace was born on June 8, 1917 in New York City. When he was 13, George moved to a West Virginia mining town with his mother and her new husband. The teen went to work in the coal mines and he joined the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Great Depression. When he was of age, George joined the Navy's Pacific Fleet, re-enlisting when World War II began, and serving for a total of 8 years. The former chief bosun's mate was discovered while tending bar in Hollywood. After playing a few uncredited film roles, he auditioned for a part in the 1952 film Radar Men from the Moon. He was cast as the film's lead character, Commando Cody. It was on the set of another sci-fi film, Forbidden Planet, that George was introduced to Richard Rodgers of Rodgers and Hammerstein in 1955. That led to George's Broadway debut in their new musical Pipe Dream. Most actors go from Broadway to Hollywood, not the other way around. On television, George played a lot of westerns, which were his favorite. He spent months recuperating after a horse fell on him during filming in 1954. George was active on stage and screen from 1950 until a fall led to his death on July 22, 2005.
A blonde woman running toward them is Talbot's daughter, Amy, being played by Sondra Locke.
Sondra Locke was born Sandra Louise Smith in Shelbyville, Tennessee on May 28, 1944. The class valedictorian earned a full scholarship to Middle Tennessee State College. She majored in theater there, but she dropped out after completing only 2 semesters. She got a job at Nashville's AM radio station WSM, and she soon moved over to WSM television. She changed her name to Sondra to avoid being called Sandy, and she did some modeling, with her sights set on Hollywood. The 24-year-old claimed she was only 18 when competing against nearly 600 other girls for a movie role. After several callbacks, Sondra was chosen to play the teenager Mick in the 1968 motion picture, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. She was nominated for an Academy Award, 2 Golden Globes, and 2 Laurel Awards for her performance. She met Clint Eastwood and the two paired up as a romantic couple in The Outlaw Josie Wales. Sondra teamed up almost exclusively with Eastwood for the majority of her acting career after that. There was a strange 6-week media blackout about her November 3, 2018 death at age 74.
Virdon follows Amy, asking her to say goodbye, but she claims that she doesn't know how to talk to a man from another world. Galen's reaction says a lot. Just how involved were these two? And what has he been telling her? What makes it even more awkward is that the script describes her character as only 14 years old. I guess they abandoned that. Sondra was much older, but she never really gave her true age back then. Anyway, they say goodbye to Talbot, and the 3 fugitives walk off toward another adventure on the planet of the apes. Well, that brings us to the end of another. Can you tell that I recorded this on April Fool's Day? After the 3 are out of sight, Amy comes out of the hut to join her father. He suggests that maybe they'll come back. She's not so optimistic.
No. Never.
Next, we see the 3 walking along. Galen suddenly orders the humans to move along, and he gives them a shove. Now that caught me off guard until I saw a gorilla come into view. And that gorilla is Ron Stein as Nisa in the first of his 2 roles in this episode. As he passes, Galen explains to Nisa that he's transferring the 2 humans to a workforce in the next village. Now back at that village, Amy discovers that Talbot has suddenly become ill. We cut to Urko and another gorilla engaging in a friendly rock-throwing competition. A 3rd gorilla rides up with word that Tryon has the sleeping sickness. Now when Urko picks up his helmet and belt, he inadvertently grabs the other gorilla's vest and belt and carries them off. Meanwhile, the fugitives have settled down for a night among some rocks. Galen is rather peeved that Virdon had let the cat out of the bag to Amy. When he told her about being from another world, that exposed all 3 of them to the possibility of being discovered by Urko. Virdon's flashback picks up some of that dialogue that we'd skipped on the first few pages. It omits the little girl stuff, and it adds that Amy is in love with Virdon, even though she's only just met him a week ago. He predicts that she'll forget him in 2 weeks.
Will you forget me?
She suggests that he take her with him, but he can't. He'd apparently already told her that he's married, but she doesn't believe him. Would it really matter? I mean, his wife's been dead for how long now? Centuries? That's when he told her.
I'm a stranger here.
This was an early episode, so he was still holding out hope that he'd find a way to get back home. That plot line seemed to be abandoned after their adventures in the ruins of Oakland, California.
Lies! There is no other world.
Back in the present, Galen goes on with his accusations.
You told her who we are. Not only did you trust her with your life, but you trusted her with ours.
Chalk it up to the fact that he's only human.
Oh, yes. Sometimes, I forget that humans can't help the weaknesses they have.
Back at Talbert's hut, he's getting worse. Amy has no idea what to do to help him. We cut to a council chamber where Zaius calls the meeting to order. An orangutan, played by Biff Elliott, is the first to address the council. Now, Biff had played Zaius' manservant, Ullman, in the very first episode of the series. He reads from an old book describing a fever that affected only humans, killing hundreds of them. An entire sector became barren afterward with no humans to work the land. You wouldn't expect the apes to do work now, would you? Zaius has ordered Tryon to be quarantined. Urko objects.
Quarantine? Burn it!
Zaius introduces his chief medical officer, Zoran, played by David Shiner.
David Shiner was born in New York City on January 13, 1928. David made his television debut in 1952 when New York was the home of the network studios. He hit Broadway in 1955 as a hotel bellboy in George Axelrod's play, Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter? In the late 1950s, David moved to Hollywood to continue working in the growing television industry. This move west also led to some motion picture work beginning in the 1960s. One notable role was as one of the poker buddies in the 1968 film, The Odd Couple. David was known for playing thugs and tough guys during his 36 years on stage and screen. He retired from acting in 1988 at the age of 60. David Shiner is now 97 years old.
Zoran has some theories that he'd like to test out.
Theories! I intend to test my theories in trial.
He wants to test theories.
Tryon is isolated, so Zaius feels that a quarantine will reduce any risk of spread. Urko casts the only dissenting council vote. He will go to Tryon to enforce the quarantine.
You will not regret your faith in me.
The next morning, the fugitives are well rested and packing to move on. A human comes through pushing a wheelbarrow with a straw basket attached to the top. They recognize him as Mason, the coal carrier from Tryon, the village they'd just left the previous day. Mason is played by Albert Cole, who had appeared in a score of productions in the 1970s. He says that he was lucky to be on the outside when the quarantine hit. He heard that many were dead and many more dying. Virdon wants to go back. Burke and Galen argue that there's no good reason to go back.
No. Will you tell him that it makes no sense to go waltzing into a plague-ridden village?
Yes, if you did go back, what good could you do?
I don't know.
They could end up contracting the disease. They probably can't help, and even if they could, they might get shot doing so. Virdon insists that they have to try. Burke agrees. Galen is upset that they're making decisions that affect him without including him in those decisions.
Now you just wait! Are you planning to include me in on this trip back to Tryon?
Well, yes, I figured... I hoped we would stay together.
But we have just been through all that! But just because that girl is in love with you, should I risk my life by going back there?
No.
The gorilla Nisa says that he has orders to kill anyone who tries to cross the quarantine line. Well, I guess that's that.
Now move!
The three hurry away, and then they run off the path into the woods. They spot a body. It's the body of that guy who died in the beginning of the episode. Virdon examines the body for some unknown reason. I don't know. If I'd been told of a plague, and then I stumbled upon a dead body, I think I'd stay far, far away from that body. Burke remarks about the stagnant water.
And mosquitoes.
Yeah, come on.
I don't think we needed to see them on screen, but the production team crudely animated a bunch of mosquitoes in for us. There's a quick clip showing Urko and 3 other gorillas closing in. Meanwhile, Virdon, Burke, and Galen nonchalantly saunter right into the quarantined village. A man begs for help. Virdon and Burke examine him, and they determine what he's dying from.
No question about it.
Malaria.
Okay, let's get started.
The role of the dying man is portrayed by occasional actor Charles Leyland. He had previously played a convict on an episode of Bonanza. He'd been a stand-in on episode 9, The Horse Race, and he would later do 7 episodes of Quincy M.E.
Amy!
Amy runs up to Virdon as they cross the compound.
My father's dead.
Amy, I'm so sorry.
Amy, how do you feel?
I'm fine. I'm very tired, but I'm not sick.
Virdon gathers the villagers, and he gives instructions about burying the dead and setting fires. The smoke will keep the mosquitoes away, he says. And while he's speaking, Chief Medical Officer Zoran rides into the village with his assistant Inta. Inta is played by Eldon Burke, uncredited in this, the 5th of his 6 episode appearances. Virdon is going on about treatment centers when Zoran speaks up.
You! Who are you?
Just a man trying to help.
I am Zoran, Chief Medical Officer of the Supreme Council. This is my assistant Inta. I have complete authority here now.
We're happy to see you.
Zoran has some strange ideas about treatment. He puts Virdon in charge of digging a pit. Burke, never at a loss for words, speaks his mind.
You're whistling Dixie, Doc.
Galen explains that Burke and Virdon are familiar with treating this disease. Burke calls it malaria.
How clever, he even has a name for it.
Virdon explains how the mosquitoes thrive around the stagnant water, spreading the disease with their bite.
That is enough.
Inta rides in with Nisa and another gorilla named Kava, who's played by Ron Sobel.
Ron Sobel was born in Chicago on March 28, 1928. The athletic young man was a boxing champ and he played football at the University of Michigan. After serving 2 years with the Army Airborne, Ron turned back to competitive sports. He was a long jump national champion at the 1952 U.S. Outdoor Track and Field Championships. He had studied acting at the University of Michigan, so he decided to put his degree to work. He continued his theatrical studies in New York, where he concentrated on classics such as Shakespeare. Ron began appearing on television while in New York and he moved to Hollywood with the industry. He enjoyed westerns, appearing on Have Gun Will Travel, Wagon Train, Bonanza, and many others. He appeared as a representation of real-life Wyatt Earp on the Spectre of the Gun episode of Star Trek. He made more than 100 screen appearances in his 45-year acting career before retiring in 2000. Ron Sobel died on May 2, 2002 at the age of 74.
Nisa seems a bit unsteady in his saddle.
Arrest these two!
Zoran tells Nisa to arrest Virdon and Burke. He recognizes them.
Cross the quarantine line against my orders.
As you please.
Galen steps forward to protest. He'd better be careful. He'd also crossed Nisa's quarantine line. It's of no consequence, though, because Nisa succumbs and falls to the ground. Kava and Virdon go to Nisa's aid. Burke diagnoses malaria.
You said the people strikes only humans.
Zoran can't explain it, and in no time whatsoever, Nisa is dead. Urko sets his camp up overlooking the village. The 3 friends consider that they'd have a better chance of getting away now before more guards are posted. But they decide to stay, against their better judgment. In Urko's tent, Zaius and the other council members have arrived. Urko demands purification by fire. Zaius wants to hear Dr. Zoran's thoughts, though. Zoran explains that it's not the disease they had originally thought. He's discovered a rare disease called malaria, which he believes grows in stagnant pools of water. And get this, it's transmitted by mosquito bites.
Zoran, are you aware of what you're asking us to believe?
You can't be serious! He's got the fever in...
Zaius sees this as an opportunity to develop a cure for the apes only.
We can experiment with the humans.
Now, in the village, Virdon and Burke are overseeing the production of masks and gloves. Zoran tells them that he's claimed credit for their theory to save them from punishment if their treatment doesn't work.
You're very generous.
No, not entirely.
He says that if he told them where he got the ideas, there would have been too many questions. They discuss a treatment for the malaria, quinine. It's extracted from the bark of a cinchona tree. So, where are they going to find that? First, they have to assign a work party to drain the swamp. Then, they set out to find the tree. After a brief encounter with Urko, they move on. Back at the infirmary, Amy is getting weak. Meanwhile, those explorers find what they think is a group of cinchona trees. They gather as much bark as they can, and they bring it back to be ground into powder. Virdon visits Amy as she's fighting the illness. They begin distributing the treatment to the sick villagers. Amy starts hallucinating, talking in her sleep. Zoran overhears her. She's asking Virdon not to go back to his other world. Then the doctor is called away. Kava is sick. The other gorillas have scattered as Kava is suffering. Urko rides in, berating the doctor.
Now we'll see if the council still believes in you. This village will burn, and everyone in it. Everyone!
Picking up where we left off, Zoran dismounts and is about to treat the afflicted Kava. Urko suddenly kicks his horse forward and he knocks the doctor to the ground.
You will not experiment with my troops.
Urko's response makes no sense. I mean, what difference would it make? Kava's dying anyway. They gather in Urko's tent. He still wants to burn everything, but some of the council members are open to new ideas. They put it to a vote that ends in a tie, and that leaves the tie-breaking decision to Zaius. He gives the doctor until noon the following day.
Fools. When you are all dying in pain, like Kava. Don't forget what I told you.
It's late night at the treatment center. Virdon is worried. He's starting to wonder if the tree bark they got is from the wrong tree or maybe a mutated variety. It may not be as potent as the ones in his past, or there could be other variables. A lot could have happened in the time that's passed since they left the Earth.
You told me the medication worked quickly.
Yes, it does, but there could be other factors.
After Virdon goes outside for some fresh air, Amy starts to moan. The doctor goes to her and he starts questioning her.
Your friend from the other world.
Yes.
Where is that other world? Where did he come from?
He's asking her if her friend is an astronaut when Galen pops in to check on Amy.
Why are you sneaking up on me?
Oh, I was just coming to look at the girl. Tell me something.
Is she beginning to talk strangely again?
Strangely?
Yes. It's the fever. Oh, it does make her say the most impossible things. She's got a very good imagination, though.
The doctor says he couldn't make anything out of her ramblings. Outside, Ron Stein is now playing an unnamed gorilla guard. He's keeping watch over the sick gorilla Kava. From the infirmary entrance, Virdon can see Kava shivering, and he can't stand to see the gorilla suffer. He sneaks out to Kava with some of that quinine solution.
Here, drink this. It'll help you.
Kava coughs at the bitterness, and that alerts the guard, who takes a couple of shots at Virdon as the man is retreating. When he gets back to the infirmary, they ask about the shots, and he says that he was on a mercy mission.
You treated Kava.
Yeah. Oh, terrific. Now he's making house calls.
You risked your life for an ape?
His pain is no different than theirs.
Orko wants to know what the shooting was about.
I heard a sound. There was someone with Kava.
Who?
I couldn't see, sir.
Orko goes to Kava. The ailing gorilla has great difficulty responding to Orko's questions, and when Orko finds the quinine container on the ground, Kava admits to drinking it. Orko then berates the guard.
If Kava dies, if they've killed him with this medicine, I'll kill you myself.
It's morning, and we're looking up at Orko's tent. 7 gorillas on horseback hold their torches high in the air as they peel off toward the village to burn it.
The gorillas are coming! They'll burn our houses, everything!
Act 4 opens with one of Burke's witty remarks.
There goes the situation.
Zoran is upset that Orko is going against the council.
I came here for a victory of my own. Orko will not take it away from me, not when it is this close.
Could the council have changed its mind?
I think not.
Virdon has something up his sleeve. While the 3 run off to do whatever he has in mind, Kava is getting stronger. In fact, he sits up and he sees Zoran confronting Orko. Zoran says he was given until noon, and several hours are remaining. He reminds the gorilla that the council voted.
The council began!
That is treason, Orko. I command you to withdraw.
You command! You have words! I have weapons!
Would you kill me, Orko?
Zoran tells Zaius that Orko wouldn't let him treat Kava, preferring to let the gorilla die, discrediting the doctor. Orko rebukes Zoran for his claim that he could help Kava.
He could not help Kava. He could help no one.
It appears you were misinformed, Orko.
They see the villagers emerging from the infirmary. Orko claims that it's a trick, but Kava shows up to contradict Orko. He claims that someone, a human, came to him in the night. Orko orders him to be silent, even threatening to shoot Kava.
I order you. Orko, you are wrong. They gave me something to drink, bitter medicine. The medicine made me better. It saved my life, Orko.
Zaius orders Orko to withdraw, threatening to relieve him of his command if he doesn't.
Withdraw!
In the end, everything's back to normal in the village. Dr. Zoran requests to speak with the 3 strangers. The 4 of them take their conversation outside, where Zoran tells them that he knows who they are. He says that he's loyal to Zaius and he must turn them over to the orangutan. And they remind the good doctor that they could tell Zaius that Zoran wasn't the one who developed the malaria cure. Uh-oh. He then suggests that they stay out of sight and they leave after dark, which is agreeable to the 3 fugitives. We cut to a day for night scene. Burke and Galen put their backpacks on, while Virdon says a long goodbye to Amy.
Be happy, Amy.
Then, with Zoran watching, the three fugitives disappear into the darkness on their way to their next adventure on the Planet of the Apes.
The fact that this episode had 10, maybe even more gorillas, warmed my heart. The fact that none of them can shoot straight set fire to my brain. And the fact that every single one of those gorillas, including Orko, was played the fool by the humans, burned my soul. Worst episode ever!
Well, there's another Planet of the Apes episode watched, and only 2 more to go after this. I read that while this episode was being filmed at the Fox Ranch, the show had been on the air for a couple of weeks. And at that time, it was thought that Planet of the Apes could possibly run for 5 years, maybe even more. I guess it was a distinct possibility, based on the popularity of the films, but unfortunately the series was canceled after airing only 14 episodes. That's about 2/3 of a season. Even though it was doing poorly here in the United States, the series was apparently a huge success in the United Kingdom. And that's been borne out in some of the comments I've seen written on my reviews. Do you find it interesting that a married guy, Virdon, always seems to get the girl in these episodes? And then there's poor Burke, who's single. He keeps getting stuck in awkward situations with female chimpanzees. I was trying to figure out why the airing of this episode was delayed so much. So I Googled it. The answer I got was very unusual. It didn't describe this episode in the least. So a little more digging took me to the source of the information, where I found that the answer I had seen was actually for episode 13, coming up next. It was the 7th produced, and it was held back as well, for a controversial reason. So sadly, that kind of spoils my next review just a little bit. But at least I got to the bottom of that mystery. Now, I never did get an answer about this episode's reason for being delayed. Surely it didn't take very long to add those mosquitoes. Holding episodes back may explain the declining quality toward the season's end. One description I read of the episode claimed that the village prefect was tasked with finding the cure, and that prompted me to realize that there was no prefect in this village. They probably mistook Zoran as a prefect, because Zoran was the chief medical officer of the Supreme Council, but he was a chimpanzee. He wasn't a prefect. Now, not that it makes a lot of difference to the story, but while it held my interest, this one wasn't one of my favorites. It's not that it was a bad episode, it just wasn't particularly good. I found it difficult to believe that Virdon and Amy could fall in love during the course of a single week. And I'm not saying that because we go a week between episodes. He actually mentions a week in the dialogue. And how old is Amy? We know that Sondra Locke always claimed to be at least 4 years younger than her actual age, and she preferred to play about 6 to 10 years younger than that. So, she was around 30, playing, 18, 20? It also amazes me that this series has so many once tropical plants just growing wild there in California. Now, I know climate change might account for some of it, but it's just too convenient to the storyline for it to happen just so frequently. And those 2 astronauts really have a lot of advanced medical knowledge. I often sip tonic water with quinine before bed to avoid painful leg cramps. And I'd heard that quinine was used to treat malaria, but I'd never heard of the cinchona tree, which is native to the Andes in South America. Could it grow in California? I don't know. What did you think of this episode? Did you like it or dislike it? Leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you'll know when I post my next episode of Old Joe's Reminiscence.